You're listening to the FM Rainbow channel on 107.1 megahertz. My name is Fali R. Singara and welcome to our special show today as we mark Innovations Day. Every year, this day celebrates innovation and creativity across the nation. Joining us today is Professor B. Bravi, a gentleman who is instrumental in nurturing and mentoring some of the finest young minds in our country. A well-known educationist, author, and brilliant innovator at the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, that's the IIT Bombay, he is the Institute Chair Professor of Mechanical Engineering in a much celebrated and award-winning 3-decade career. Among his many achievements include founding BETIC, that's the Biomedical Engineering and Technology Incubation Center, an ecosystem that has developed more than 50 low-cost medical devices, incubated 15 startup companies, and licensed products to the industry. He has also developed several novel technologies in metal casting. He's the brilliant mind behind the AutoCast software, and his cloud-based eFoundry has over 80,000 visitors worldwide. Thank you so much for being with us on the show today, sir, on Innovations Day. It's such a pleasure to have a great innovator like you with us on the show.
My pleasure, my honor, and it's great to be in All India Radio. I'm very, very pleased, and of course, thank you for inviting me. And let's see what we can share with the public.
I'm sure it's going to be an absolutely amazing conversation, sir. Now, growing up, who were your heroes? You must have had some very interesting role models, who shaped your work and inspired your innovations. Could you share with us who they were?
See, I have been in Bombay and I have learned from everyone, not just teachers and students, and I'll tell you from more stories along the way. Amazing people who come to our lab who are illiterate, who are handicapped, and they come sometimes inspire us to do more.
That's absolutely inspiring. Thank you for sharing that with us, sir. And you've, of course, developed so many innovative technologies, written award-winning books, published over 250 technical papers and made these innovative programs, which have benefited thousands of students and teachers. So what fuels that amazing creativity?
No, creativity is usually, people think it is like random ideas, right? It's not really so. I mean, when you say random ideas, you can never bring it to the fruition. It finally has to take shape and it has to finally make a difference to the real world, right? So we kind of talk about two parts of creativity. One is systematic creativity, which means that doing creativity in a proper end-to-end way. We call it as from ideation to invention to innovation to impaction. That is one way of looking at the whole thing. The second aspect of creativity is collaboration. When I say creativity and product development, if you look at any product, you take a watch or take a mobile phone or a telephone, anything. I mean, it's not just a mechanical product or an electronics product or a material product, it's a product. And you need to bring all kinds of people together. We'll talk about medical eventually, which means you have to get the doctors in the room, you have to get the designers in the room, mechanical, electronics, software, and eventually even investors and business people and government agencies and suppliers. Now, all these have to work together. The issue is that most of us are in our comfort zones. I mean, mechanical professor won't talk to electrical professor and vice versa. We are here talking about engineers talking to scientists, talking to doctors, talking to business people. So the only way to get them to collaborate is to get them out of their comfort zones. And you have to be able to ask stupid questions, which means you have to lower your ego. And therefore, creativity and innovation have this other ramification. One is collaboration and second thing is do it in a very systematic way.
That's absolutely amazing, sir. And of course, you are from IIT Bombay. How did this amazing journey begin for you? From student to this amazing professor that you are now, sir.
I can share with you that I was born in Orissa. My parents are from Andhra. And I did my master's and PhD from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, which is really the mecca of research and science in the country. And then for last almost 30 years, I'm working in Bombay, Maharashtra. So I've kind of straddled 4 states. I've also straddled 3 different kinds of institutions. My bachelor's was from NIT, which is like you can say good solid education in engineering. And of course, my master's PhD was from ISC, and which is science kind of background. And now if you look at IIT, it is technology. So science, engineering, technology, I've kind of been there, seen that. Okay. Now, if you look at the other part of the journey, although I am basically a mechanical engineer and my specialization was in design, direct master's level, for PhD went deep into materials and metallurgy and metal casting, which was a different branch altogether. And towards end of PhD, I went deep into software. I have actually written lakhs of lines of code, which is not easy if you know that. Writing 10 lines of program is different from writing 1,000 lines and different from writing 10,000 and 1 lakh lines of code. And once I joined IIT Bombay, they were starting the School of Management, so I kind of was involved with setting up the School of Management. And about 10-12 years back, I came in touch with a doctor, and that's a long story. We'll see what we can do about it. But he invited me to come and see a surgery of a child with bone cancer, and they were putting an imported advanced knee joint, and it's not a simple knee joint, it's the entire knee joint and part of the femur and tibia being replaced. And it was pretty shaky because the kind of engineering that goes into medicine, it was for me a first hand exposure to that. And the doctor later on showed me a lot of failed implants and said, can we not do something about that? And that's how my journey into medicine started, and that's now about, you can say about 15 years now. We have now invented a large number of medical devices of all sorts, head to toe, diagnostic, screening devices, orthopedic implants, and other kinds of things. And that has been quite rich and rewarding. So if you look at my journey, multiple disciplines and also multiple applications. And what I would like to add is also meeting all kinds of interesting people on the way. And that, I think, makes life very, very rich to live.
Absolutely amazing. I think we've got off to a fantastic start. It's time to play some music for our listeners. And I believe you said one of your all-time favorite songs was Eye of the Tiger.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You know, that's one of the most innovative songs about never giving up and trying to get the best out of life. And I can't think of a better song to start off the show with.
Perfect.
All right. So let's get into that right now. Survivor with Eye of the Tiger, one of the greatest songs in the history of music. And today we're doing an amazing show for you. We're doing a special to mark Innovations Day. And with us is an innovator, educator, and entrepreneur who's really changed the way we look at things in the world today. And that's, of course, Professor Bravi. And he is the Institute Chair Professor of Mechanical Engineering at IIT Mumbai as one of his many things that he does. And he's also the founder of BITIC, that's BITIC, the Biomedical Engineering and Technology Incubation Center, an ecosystem that has changed the Indian medical landscape. Thank you so much for being here with us. You know, your mission is to develop technology that will have a wide-reaching impact on the entire country, and you're doing a fantastic job with it, sir, you know.
Thank you. Yes.
In all the fields that you're doing, sir. So, you're working at IIT Bombay, which is, of course, the most wanted destination for top rankers all over the country. You know, movies like Three Idiots, Super 30, and Chichore have given us glimpses of student life in IIT. And could you tell us, in IIT Bombay, what is the life there like? What are the student innovators that you meet? What are the things and projects that you are working on currently, sir?
Yeah, IIT is a pretty rich ecosystem. We now have almost 10,000 students, and what people don't know is more than half of them are actually pursuing postgraduate degrees, masters and PhD. But it's the BTechs who bring in the energy and enthusiasm for innovation and entrepreneurship. And many of them are now starting off companies. Many of them have become very famous. You would know that. What we are also looking at is that instead of doing just e-commerce kind of startups, can we also do technology-based startups? The thing is, if you look at the world today and go to any country in the world, it's very difficult to find a product which you can put a finger saying, this is made in my India. You know, I would like to see a day when we can proudly talk about Indian products, making it big on the world scenario, and any corner of the world, we're finding them. Now, there are many reasons why it doesn't happen, and I have been kind of, in the last 30 years, as I moved on from being a teacher to slowly mentoring research projects to converting those projects into products, and now pushing those students to even start their own companies and going big. It has been quite a bit of a journey, and I'm trying to now look at how have we done this thing so far, and can we put a process to the whole thing, method to madness, if you want to say that, and can we share this process with other teachers in the country so that they can create equally powerful ecosystems, converting their students into innovators and entrepreneurs. So we are trying to do that, and a few lessons along the way which maybe I can share. One lesson is that most teachers actually are not geared for this kind of a, you can say, mentoring role. If you say that engineering is a professional education, and if you step back for a minute and say that it is same as, let's say, law or accounting or maybe medicine, would you learn law from someone who has never fought a case in court? Would you learn surgery from someone who has never performed a surgery in operation theatre? Would you learn accounting from someone who has never filed a balance sheet for a company? But you can learn engineering from someone who has never designed or manufactured an industrial product, and from a textbook to the blackboard to the students' notebooks, you know, it's not right. We have very, very few teachers who have actual practical experience in doing industrial stuff. This has to change. That is number one. But I want to give you a scenario. Imagine you are a student and you go to a professor and then you say, sir, I have this new idea to build this new maybe de-weeding equipment for agriculture, or this new medical device, or a new toy, or anything else. And the professor says, because he has done the thing before, he says, wow, that's a great idea, go ahead, here is a facility in the lab, here is some project money, you can use this idea or that tool. And that's great. That is, I say, class A teachers. Even if you can't do that, let's say you don't have experience, but you know the value of innovation and you want to encourage and tell the student, okay, that's a good idea, I can't help you, but here is a phone call to my friend in industry, maybe he'll help you. Or maybe here is a little bit of money that you can use for the converting project. Okay, number 2. That's class 2 teachers. Even if you can't do that, class 3, at least when a student comes to you, you don't say that it is difficult or expensive or why are you wasting your time or all kinds of negative things. If you don't do that, just get out of the way. Let the student do it. Because even if you fail in this innovation game, the valuable thing is failures are actually very valuable to do the next project more successfully. We say failure is a foundation success. We say failure is a key to success. We celebrate failures, learn from failures, as long as you don't do the same failure twice, of course. Okay. So these 3 class of teachers, if we can get them in the room and get them to guide the students, and we can create those kinds of teachers, it can be a game changer for the country.
I think something interesting we had in our discussion while the song was going on, that many students make many innovative projects, but they never made into products.
Absolutely.
So you said that it would be amazing that if the student projects, which are very amazing and innovative, were given a chance to become a product for the company.
Absolutely. Look at it. This year we may have something like maybe almost 1 million students, engineering students alone. I'm not even counting science and diploma and IT and other branches. If you look at just engineering students, 1 million or so coming out, and let's say about 3 or 4 of them will together do a final year project. So talking about, let's say, about 200,000 or 2 lakh projects, right? Imagine if these projects, instead of just going on a shelf, they are actually become a product, and these bunch of students take it into a startup company, it can make a big difference. But as I said before, you need those teachers who can tell the students how to go about doing that, and we have shortage of those kind of teachers.
One very interesting point you have brought up is the thing of value of death. It's about ideas to impact. So could you explain that to us?
Yeah, this I have been talking about for quite some time, and even in Niti Aayog we were discussing this. Many times engineers or even innovators fall in love with an idea and just keep going ahead without even checking whether someone needs the product or not. So even before the idea comes is a what's called as need definition or need identification. And that you must go do by going out of your classroom or laboratory or office room, get out into the real world, talk to potential customers, and of course narrow down saying who are the customers. It could be farmers if you're doing agri-tech product, or it could be a factory product, or medical product. Go to hospitals and find out. So go to the field, talk to people, find an unmet need, and once you have a need definition, you can then have many techniques to create an idea. Again, people say, oh, I have an idea and it's very powerful and I own the idea. They don't even share the idea with you. I say, ideas are dime a dozen. You and me can generate 100 ideas right now in the next half an hour. The point is, after the idea, you have to take the next step. And that's the first value of death, is creating a proof of concept. Idea is in your head, but no one understands that unless you actually put it in a physical form. Now that can be used using a clay or paper or plastic or tubes or whatever, cardboard. So proof of concept is, I think, giving a physical shape to what you have in mind, and you can explain using that. It's not a working product. That's the first value of death. Cross that. After you do that, and let's say there's some traction and people say, okay, that's interesting. Can I see a working model of that? Then you build a prototype. So proof of concept to prototype is the second value of death. Now these two values are not difficult to cross in academic institutions. You have computers doing modeling, you have 3D printers, you have all kinds of laboratories for prototyping. Anyone can do that, doesn't cost you much. The third value of death, we'll skip for a moment. Let's go to the fourth value of death, which I call as product to market. Once you have a product, which is actually complete product, working product, you have drawings of that, bill of materials, specifications, what part to buy from whom, how to assemble that, how to test it, how to manufacture that, what kind of skill sets you need. Now a business guy knows how to do that. He knows how to buy those things, materials, hire people, put up a shop, manufacture in large numbers and sell it. He knows that. The issue is with the third value of death, where you want to convert a research prototype into a marketable product. Now academia doesn't know how to do that, okay, because they have never done that before. And it requires the kind of skills only which an industry guy has. But an industry person never does this thing because they think it is too risky. Why should he put his money and effort in building a product which is untested? Innovative products are by default untested. So that is where the third value of death, which is where most of our, even those which cross the first value of death, they fail. And unless we somehow bring the two people, the two sides, the academia industry together, it won't happen. And I've heard and attended so many academia industry conclaves where the two sides simply blame each other. But if you ask me, between the two, who should take the first step, I will take a call and say it is academia who should take the first step, because they have little bit more freedom, little bit more resources, and maybe little bit more of, I would say, potential to take that additional step towards industry, try to convert their idea into a prototype or product, and work with industry to take the product to market.
Some of the world's greatest innovators and inventors created things, and it was world changing, but it never got off because they didn't know how to market it.
Absolutely.
For example, Nicholas Tesla.
Yes.
He invented what today would be Wi-Fi and mobile phone technology in 1901.
I must say this thing. In these valleys of death, one of the things which is now making it possible for Indians to get into the game, which was not possible even, I would say, even 10, 15, 20 years back, is the role of computers. I mean, computers are not making it possible for us to visualize, analyze, simulate, and even prototype. You can just think about a shape in your mind, bring it on the computer screen, press a button, and the shape can be in your hands within the next few hours.
So many innovative and award-winning devices, which include the smart stethoscope and even the above-knee prosthetic leg. Could you tell us how all of these amazing things came about and how the other life-changing medical devices were conceived? I mean, what made you think, yes, I need to do these things for the world?
I gave you a hint some time back that my journey in medical really started from meeting this doctor in a conference, and he invited me to come and see a surgery. And I was kind of, I would say, shaken up quite a bit about both the need and the possibilities of medical device innovation. Let me put it in perspective that at this point of time, India needs almost 50,000 crores worth of medical devices every year, and we're importing 80% of it, mostly from Western countries. It's not great because the devices are designed for a population whose per capita expenditure on healthcare is 100 times India's. So even if you give 90% discount, it is 10 times more expensive for the average Indian, and if you look at bottom of the pyramid, maybe it is 1,000 times more expensive. So it can't be done like that. So we thought, what can we do about it? And let me not make a tall claim at this point of time. When we started, we had very modest ambitions. We just said we will get doctors and engineers together in the room talking to each other. That's it. And we were very fortunate that doctors from virtually almost every top hospital in Bombay, you name it, Tata Memorial, Hinduja, JJ, and many more, KEM and so on, they all came up by word of mouth. You meet one good doctor and he's happy about you, he puts in touch with other doctors and so on. The other good thing is that many of these doctors actually, in their class 12, they wanted to do engineering, and maybe their parents said, no, go into medicine, and then they went to medicine. And I'm also finding many engineers who took biology in class 12, wanted to do medicine, they couldn't get through, and did engineering. So when you put this kind of people together, it's really magic. So that was the first step we did. The other thing is that the state government of Maharashtra, and I must particularly mention Dr. Anil Kakodkar, he is the chairman of the Science and Technology Commission of Maharashtra. He took a leap of faith. I still cannot believe that he said, why don't you put a small project together where we can start developing medical devices indigenously, high quality, suitable for the country, innovative yet affordable. So that's how the journey started in 2014, 2015. We are just about 5 years old. And he said, don't do it in IIT Bombay alone. He said, create a network. So he said, why don't you look at other institutions also? Today, if you see, we have now 14 institutions. So we have done this 200 products, and we had promised that we will do about 5 patents. We have filed 55 patents in the last 5 years. We said we'll train about 50 people. We have trained 800 people. We never said we will do startups, but we now have 15 startups and 5 technologies licensed to Indian companies, local companies. So when I look back, I also cannot believe that this has happened. I think a lot of goodwill, a lot of support from government, institutions, medical, even media, I would say, has been very generous to us. And I think core reason is that we were always very clear that we are not doing research for the sake of research alone, just for publication or a patent. We were very clear that we want to take the product out into the market and make a difference to the common man, especially bottom of the pyramid. They're actually suffering. And actually many of our devices are screening and diagnostic devices. You say prevention is better than cure if you can catch a problem early enough. And when you say the smart stethoscope, for example, we took a humble stethoscope, and this team of people, and one of them is from a top manufacturing company, one is from a top semiconductor company, both of them gave up good paying jobs, resigned, and then came back and at half the salary, 1/3 salary. And they said, no, we'll take on this challenge. The challenge was, when a rural hospital doctor puts a stethoscope on the patient's chest and he hears some sound which he has never heard before in his training life, he has to take a call. Should I send the patient in a bus to city for a second opinion, or is it not an emergency case? The doctor says, can I send the sound, not the patient, to another doctor? That is how the project came up. So these guys came up with a module which can be connected between the tube and the chest piece, and it makes it digital. Now you can record the sound, you can enhance sound, you can cancel noise, you can visualize the sound, you can share it, send via WhatsApp or email, it becomes part of the health record, and now they can do analytics also. In future we can put a stethoscope and you know whether your heart or chest sound is okay or not, So innovations like this are actually changing the game, and that gives us a lot more enthusiasm and energy to do more of such things.
That's absolutely amazing, sir. And what more can be done in India, you feel? I mean, in the 21st century, the field of biomedical engineering has seen many, many breakthroughs, more than any other time in history. And as you were saying that you're on the council of many government councils, and the Prime Minister is always challenging everyone to be more innovative. He says, I want to see all these amazing products made in India only. Would you agree with me?
Absolutely. I think Prime Minister and all the ministries and secretaries are grappling with this problem of creating large-scale employment, which is not possible by the conventional industry. We have to be able to harness innovation and create startups, and the so-called job seekers have to become job creators. And I think top institutions like IITs have to take the responsibility for doing that. I have no doubt about that. Now, if you want to build the innovation ecosystem, there are several reasons why healthcare is a good place to start. And very quickly, if I can say, healthcare is universal. Everyone has to worry about health. Number two, healthcare, you can make a social impact. Imagine an overworker, if he falls sick, he cannot go to the job and there's no daily wage and then there's no food on the table that day. It's really sad. So it can make a difference. Healthcare also has become one of the largest employment generation avenues. In fact, there's a report which says that now healthcare is number one employer in USA, and healthcare has now become number one in terms of startups after e-commerce in India too. So opportunities are there in terms of social impact. The third reason is that many government agencies are at this point of time are supporting healthcare innovation for these top two reasons. And so the funding available now is very, very good. And so it's 50 lakh rupees is possible for an innovator to get from the government as a check to start a company. Great. Okay. Reason number three is that also the opportunities from technology which is coming in now, we call it as technology push. You can say that medical is a very difficult area to get into. There are all these Johnsons and Strikers of the world. What can we do? I say yes, it is possible, because you take all these new age technologies, CAD/CAM, medical imaging, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, okay, 3D printing, of course, okay. All these put together are giving us a new chance to rethink and re-innovate medical devices, make them far more better, faster, easier, and not just affordable, but affordable also. Okay, and so that opportunity is now being taken up by a large number of people. But the best reason I say for the last, I mentioned to you earlier that innovation requires collaboration, going out of comfort zone, lowering your ego, embracing failure and risk. Now that's not easy in general. How do you get people to go out of the comfort zones? But healthcare, when you look at a patient suffering, you kind of forget yourself for a moment, saying, what can I do for this person who is suffering? And that gets you out of comfort zone. And therefore I say, healthcare is a good starting point. Build the ecosystem. Once you have the facilities and processes, tomorrow you can do agri-tech, you can do defense tech, you can do anything else after that.
Absolutely amazing. So kudos to you and the work you are doing, especially you and your team. The work you have done has really changed the Indian medical landscape, and you've saved so many lives. I must tell the listeners that, the professor is being very, very modest with all the things he has done so far. Thank you so much for being with us. And we were talking about, some of the amazing stories that you have to share with us with the medical breakthroughs you've gone through, sir. Could you tell us about that?
There are so many stories, and I want to also add to that all this doesn't happen by one person. We actually owe it to a large number of people. We call them stakeholders. And we have 7 stakeholders. We have the government, we have the academia, we have the medical community, we have the startups, incubators, industry, even investors, and even media. We all call them as stakeholders in this whole innovation game. And the earlier story which you talked about the smart stethoscope, the inventor of that, one inventor comes from a place called Koppa, which is near Sringeri in Karnataka, remote Karnataka. And the other innovator, Tapas, he comes from close to Dehradun in Uttarakhand. So look at the kind of people who are coming to a lab. They're not necessarily IITians. I want to drive the point. They're not IITians, all of them. Many of them are very ordinary people. But I think that is the power of India. We have the natural resources, we have the human resources. All they need is a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of a nurturing environment. They will fly and touch the moon.
Absolutely inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that inspiring story. What is your best advice to all those young people listening to us right now, those young innovators who would like to follow in your footsteps?
Sometimes I think that this is the best time ever. India is going through a point of inflection in the sense that a lot of things are changing at every level, not just academia or government or society, even parents and family relationships. I think our grandfathers were gunning for government jobs. The next generation looked at kind of public sector jobs, and then they looked at private sector jobs, and this generation is actually looking at their own startups. And many good startups who are making it to the news is actually creating the ecosystem or the inspiration for these young people to take the plunge. But still, India is risk averse. I mean, we still have students who say, sorry boss, sorry professor, my mother is saying that get a regular job because otherwise you won't get married. But these are rare. These are now breaking slowly. And parents are saying, okay, 1 year, do something. We don't mind. If you succeed in the entrepreneurship game and if you create a job for yourself and your friends, great, you don't have to look back. If you fail, you learn so much that you become valuable to your next employer, either way. So I would say to young people, you have a great time here. Look at the problems as opportunities, challenges as avenues to explore something new. Take the plunge, 1 year, 2 years, no issues. Parents will fall in line, okay? And I'm requesting parents also to give your kids a chance to try something new, no harm. But the biggest thing also here is the teachers. And I think teachers are the medium between the academic world and the real world. And unless we have a large number of teachers who can mentor, who can handhold, and the mentoring doesn't mean meeting once in 3 months. Mentoring means being able to make a 3 a.m. phone calls. Because once you're in an innovation game, you don't want to stop. Every minute, every day is precious. You want to make a run. Because if you think you have a new idea, there are 100 other people in the different parts of the world who are thinking about the same idea. You got to run very fast. Okay, you got to trust your instincts. You got to embrace failure. And I think everyone is out there who is saying, let's give these kids a chance. And I would tell the kids, the students, take the chance which the society is giving you. Take the trust the government is laying on you. And dream big. Try it out. If you succeed, great. If you fail, still great. We are all with you.
Absolutely amazing. I think this is an amazing message to encourage innovation and nurture ideas, especially as we celebrate Innovations Day today. Thank you so much, Professor. It's been such a pleasure and honor having you with us. I mean, you brought in so many amazing points and you've actually opened our eyes to the possibilities.
I hope this will be interesting and useful to those who hear, and let the next day not be the same anymore.
I think, as you said, sir, every single day should be a celebration for innovation, not just one single day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.